There you go. Welcome, everybody. This is our first episode with no name. How do you love that? No name. Love it. Gotta love it. So we're gonna be talking about Knicks Yankees today. First day, we're gonna talk about the Knicks. Been wanting to do this for a very long time. I'm glad we finally stepped up. Our pussy asses took forever. Excuse my language. I guess we shouldn't be cursing, I guess. God forbid
Yeah.
little Daniel hears this. So all right, for first, let's get right to it, man. It's been a long summer. It's been a long year for the Knicks. And first topic we want to talk about that's been going on for a long time. We're kind of late to the party, but Donovan Mitchell, of course, right to the Knicks. Donovan Mitchell, the pros and the cons. I'll let you take it away, Kenny. What do you think? What are you going to start, pros or cons? What do you want to start with? You talk to me.
Uh, I'm gonna start with the cons just because I think that's more since nothing's really gonna happen, I believe. I don't think we're gonna trade for him. Um, I
Ever?
think he will. You know, it's I think because Danny Ainge is so stubborn,
Yeah,
um, you know, it almost feels like he's gonna give it to another team
just out of spite.
instead of the Knicks. Yes, out of spite. Why? I don't know, but that's just the feeling that I'm getting.
I,
So,
I hear you.
uh, probably the biggest con, and everyone has heard of this, is that you know he is a great scorer, but how good does he make the Knicks? Right? Um, does he elevate the team into a top five in the East? The East is pretty stacked. I
Yeah.
mean, you're not going to beat the Heat. You're not going to beat the Sixers. You're not going to beat the Bucks. If the Nets keep KD and Irving, if they somehow miraculously decide to play with the Nets, you're not going to beat the Nets. And right now, I would say that the Hawks might be better than us as well.
I totally agree. I totally agree, unfortunately.
So that puts us at maybe six to
I think even the Raptors, man, you never know. Hawks,
sure,
it's a loaded East. You're right. I don't really want to get into too much where we stand right now because that's going to be another topic. But you're right. I mean, that's a big point. How good does he make us to? And I guess you're saying that because how much are you going to give up to even move the needle? You know,
exactly. In order to get a player like Donovan Mitchell, I mean, the Timberwolves really overpaid for um
Gobert.
what's his face? Gobert. So essentially Donovan Mitchell is a better player than Gobert or highly valued.
I don't think people realize how much they really gave up. Besides, was it three first or four first?
It was four first, technically five, because they gave away their first round pick that they
Walker Kessler,
drafted.
yeah.
Correct.
But
So
but they
it
also
was five, four
gave up
first
yeah.
unprotected.
And they gave up Balmero, Leandro. We had drafted him. You remember that? I don't know if you remember
Yeah,
that.
I do
You're a real
remember
Knicks fan. We drafted him, and I remember when I drafted him, I was like, "What are we doing? This
that.
guy better be the next Ginobili." But they gave him up. They didn't give him a shot. Maybe his value is not a first anymore, but they gave up four first, maybe a pending first. You want to call Balmero? Do you get another first with Patrick Beverly and Malik Beasley? It was just an insane trade. I mean, you're right. It fluctuated the market too much. Then right now, that's even causes problem with the Kevin Durant trade too, because
Yep,
that's just because they decided to overpay doesn't mean that we're gonna overpay.
exactly. And they definitely overpaid. That's the consensus, and that's the agreement that everyone is saying that the Timberwolves overpaid. They're trying to make noise in the playoffs. And hopefully it works out for them. But I think in the long run, they're gonna regret that decision.
Desperation.
Um, Another thing is that rumors are is that Danny Ainge wants to have um, you know, potential rookie starters such as like IQ or Grimes into the mix. Are the Knicks willing to give that, especially if they have to give 4 or 5 first round picks? That's tough to see. I definitely, to me, it's either I'm going to give picks or I'm going to give you one or two solid young guys.
Yeah,
I
same.
mean, you saw Quentin Grimes on how he did with the summer league. The
Loved
guy
it.
balled.
Oh, that might
He
get
did
his
well.
might get his jersey.
All right, and then he's gonna go to the Jazz.
Yeah, I gotta wait. I gotta wait to see. because that's I'm hearing the rumors right now, speculations. That's the number one guy they want back over Obi and IQ. That's the number one.
Correct.
He is a 3-and-D player, a small one. That's the problem because he was taller. The value would be insane. He's a 3D player that can create slightly a little bit. He's showing something. Can he be a 16, 18 point player? It's a lot to give up if you're going to give up that. I think right now, Thibodeau, not Thibodeau, I'm sorry, Leon Rose, that's the one player he does not want to give up. I'm hearing that too. That's the one player he does not want to give up. He's more open to IQ and Obi, but we'll see what happens. I mean, you can't tell Jazz, hey, listen, I don't want to give you 5 first round picks. I don't want to give you Grimes. You're just gonna say no to everything. He's gonna be turned off too. But
Exactly.
I agree with you. He's not a superstar. He is a star. He's not a superstar. He's a star.
I think he's a great two in a playoff team. I don't think he is that guy that you say he's not a Kevin Durant, right? Let's just to say it because that's the only guy right now that's pretty much available. He's not a Kevin Durant where you say, okay, this is the guy that's going to put me over the hump,
Yeah.
and get me a championship. But the pros, it's pretty simple. He's a great scorer. Um, the guy is box office, so
Mm-hmm.
automatically he'll put the Knicks right back into the map. You know, um, won't be viewed as, I guess, quote unquote, the laughing stock, right? That everyone always says that the Knicks can't get anybody, and they're not going anywhere. They can't make playoffs, this and that. And then the other question is, all stars want to play with other all stars,
Yeah,
right?
it helps. I think
So it
before you go to the pro, I want to mention one con
go
is
ahead.
the fit, especially defensively. I am not a fan of Brunson and Donovan Mitchell, guards. That is not something very. I'm a big defensive player. I'm big into defense. Unlike my boy Jose, I'm really big into defense. You know,
Yeah, shout out to Jose.
there. He couldn't be here today because he wanted to do it at lunchtime, and we couldn't make it at lunchtime. But
That's right.
talking about, I think Mitchell's what 6'2", 6'3".
Yeah, he might. Yeah, I think he's like 6'2".
Yeah.
Brunson's like 6'2", 6'3" as well.
No, I think
Uh,
Brunson's 6'1". If you look it
is
up.
he?
Yeah,
Okay.
very small backcourt. I don't like that. I do not like that. And then also another fit I do not like is Donovan Mitchell with Randall. And everyone's gonna say, oh, but they might trade Randall. But until it happens, you trade for Mitchell. It's not unless it's going to be all in one trade. You still have that problem if he's still there. Is Randall going to be okay with taking a bench to Brunson and Mitchell? It's he's already had problems last year. That can cause a bigger headache. And if he causes a bigger headache, the contract becomes unmovable at that point. I mean, he's already
Agree.
hard to move him. It'll become unmovable. It'd be crazy to me. One
I
more
just did a quick Google search, and Donovan Mitchell, it says that he's 6'1".
6'1".
So
Donovan Mitchell.
we're
Oh,
gonna
sorry, I think
see.
about Brunson.
No,
What's
no.
the tallest Brunson?
Brunson's also 6'1".
Yeah, no, that's
Six
that's
one.
that's not pretty. That's not pretty.
Yeah, that's definitely a liability on the defense on the 1 and 2. But I gotta say though, Mitchell in his earlier years, he did do,
Good.
he was definitely above average defensive player.
He, believe
Um,
it or not, he was known as a defensive player coming out of the draft. He wasn't known as a.
correct.
He was in a defensive player, but
And I think Tibbs can, if anybody can get it out of him
yeah,
again, it'll be
if
Tibbs.
anybody can, yeah. One more
You
thing
know,
I didn't like, two things actually is how many minutes is this guy? Let's say for example, we win the trade. We only give up 4 or 5 picks, right? Play my game for a second, Kenny. 4 or 5 picks, and then you keep IQ, Grimes, and Obi, right? How many minutes is IQ and Grimes gonna get with Donovan Mitchell there? And you're talking about Thibodeau, the one guy who loves to play his starters 40 minutes. The one coach who plays his starters more than anybody out there. So
yeah, you're right.
gonna hinder these kids. We're back to the old school Knicks where they don't make these kids grow, and I do not like that.
Yeah, you definitely have a point on that where he definitely likes to grind these guys,
Yeah,
really overplaying. I mean, they could be up by 20 in the fourth quarter with like 3 minutes left, and
yeah,
he'll still have his starters out there. I
yeah.
mean, he's known for that.
Hence the Derrick Rose getting hurt in the Philly series,
Correct.
down by like up by like 20, and he gets hurt in the last second. It's gonna happen. I don't know if you're done with cons. I still have 2 more points. I can shoot them real quick if you want me
Yeah,
to.
go ahead.
The depth. If we give up too many young players, our depth, and that's something that's very valuable right now for our team. We have a lot of depth. We actually have one more player that you and I agree on that we want to get rid of. No offense to Fournier, even though he had a good year, he's most 3-pointers ever. We still want to move him. Honestly,
Yeah, and I think we
NFL
want to move him more in the sense because we want Grimes to
Grimes
really take
ready.
that starting position. You
Yeah,
know,
but even the backups. But
correct.
we'll talk about Fournier another day. I mean, that's yeah, I would like to get into that really depth wise because it's kind of a double edged sword with Fournier. That's the way I see it. Um, the other thing I don't like that it would be salary. You're picking up a big
Yes,
salary, and if you don't move Randall, you're talking a lot of salary in the next couple of years. There goes all your salary cap, and it's very nice, very good to have flexibility. You saw
correct.
them what they had to give up this year wasn't a lot of second round picks, but they were a laughing stock a little bit because they everyone talked about Jalen Brunson's contract. Maybe it was good, maybe it was bad, who knows? But they went through heaven and hell to get Jalen Brunson, right? They had to make like 4 trades, right? They had to give up probably 6 to 8 second round picks. So that shows you the value of salary too. That's
Yeah,
it for
that
me. And
that's important. Flexibility. I mean, if you can't move Randall, let's say right now his value definitely declined because of the year that he had. So, are you willing to take, I don't know, a high second for Randall? I don't think so if you're Leon Rose. So if you're stuck with him with another bad year, you're pretty much stuck with him for the rest of the contract. And then, that's it. You're done with that team.
you know
You're
what's
not
funny?
making any moves.
I see on Rose a little bit little bit similar to Danny Ainge.
Yeah.
A little bit similar. I
Yeah.
can
They
imagine that.
want to win the trades, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah, yeah. At least you're not going to lose a trade. At least you know
Exactly.
you're not gonna lose a trade. I think that's it for me for the cons. Pretty much. The pros we can go on forever. I mean, he is a top 20 player. He's some people say top 15. You know, his stats are good. You can't deny his stats. You know, he is
I
he was
mean, he elevated his team to like, first place for a couple of years.
yeah. That's also
Um,
something I had there. It was number one in 2020, 2021. The Jazz in the league. In the league,
correct.
pretty impressive with no second option. With no
Correct.
second option.
That was a very high defensive team, and he was pretty much the main scorer in that team, kind of like an Allen Iverson back in the day with the Sixers.
Yeah.
Um, but
Good
yeah,
good comparison.
but one of the things, right? We mentioned this before is that all stars want to play with other all stars,
Huge. Yeah.
but right now, who is available? Right, Bradley Beal at 30,
But you're saying
31.
that because you're saying because if we get Donovan Mitchell, who's gonna want to play with him?
I'm saying on as of right now, who would be available to possibly play with Donovan Mitchell? And I know tomorrow can be different. There can be another 10 All Stars that can be available, right? You saw with KD and Kyrie Irving, all of a sudden that fell through. But right now, right, you know the Knicks are not getting KD. They're not going to take a chance on Kyrie, and I'm okay with that.
They might
So
not
really,
even with Durant.
right. And who you gonna try to get? Bradley Beal, who's going to be making like
You
what
can't
what
because it doesn't.
like 55 million a year at the end of his contract? No, thank you.
I mean,
You
but
know,
I think I don't. That's another issue to talk about later on. You have to get the player first before you think
I
about
agree.
the step. Yeah. So
I agree.
I'd rather have that problem than have no. I think it's huge, like you said. Stars want to play with stars because in the end, stars want to win it all. Okay. So stars want to win. Oh, sorry, that's my friend. Stars want to win it all. So that's huge. You have to. You have to. Sorry, man. My boy Joe Silva was calling me. He is a huge Knicks hater. I think he hates the Knicks more than he loves the Nets, and he's going to listen to this tomorrow and probably laugh about it. Joe, don't worry. We will not talk about your Nets tonight. I feel for you, bro.
We
We're
can have him as a special
no,
guest one of these
yeah,
next shows.
yeah. So we'll definitely put everybody in this
Yeah.
podcast eventually, and we'll have to put a lot of mute button on him because big time Knicks hater, big time.
Yeah.
What other points did you have? There was, good points. Oh, one that I have here is that could be a pro. You're gonna be like, I like that one. Is getting Mitchell, there's been a lot of rumors that getting Mitchell would be a step point to getting rid of Randall. You know, that combo that they're saying no matter what, if they get Mitchell, they're gonna get rid of Randall next, right? They want to do it. It wouldn't even be like, oh, let's find a second star. No, this next move would be get rid of Randall, right? That's it seems like that's in the works if they want to move Mitchell. They might be talking already, having Mitchell a conversation with supposedly today, you showed me, you brought it out that trade talks emerged again. And I think it's gonna be like this, like the stock
Yeah,
market. It's just gonna be up and down. You
there's
know,
gonna be talks, and then it's gonna
it,
stop, and then talks
oh yeah,
again.
oh yeah. Someone's gonna give. Someone's gonna blink.
I
Okay.
mean, yeah, I agree with that. Just I trust in Leon Rose. That's
Yeah.
all I gotta say.
Yeah.
And we finally have a GM that is doing it the right way.
Yeah. We can be confident in him. We think we're doing it right way. He's taking some chances that he's gonna take. We'll talk about Leon Rose another day because there's a lot of points I want to bring up on Leon Rose that people don't notice. I really want to talk about Leon Rose his first year, but that's another conversation because people forget about that from 3 years ago and what happened. His first year has really put him where he is today in his third year. But again, we'll talk about that. I think we've covered all the pros and cons, and let's get to part two. So let's assume Donovan Mitchell, Danny Ainge says, "Hey, Donovan Mitchell, sign an extension," and he puts his name on the line. Or Danny Ainge goes, "Donovan Mitchell, we're sending you to God knows where, the Hornets,
Miami Heat.
Miami Heat." Yeah, rumor the Hornets and the Wizards like they have anything to give up. But anyway,
I know.
but we'll talk about that another conversation too. Let's say Donovan Mitchell is not available, hence he signs a contract extension, or he just gets traded to somewhere else. Question is, now what? What do you think will happen, Kenny? Talk to us.
Yeah, so this is something that I really thought about just because this is what I think is going to happen. And I hope I'm wrong. And I hope that, if we do get Mitchell, we don't, overpay for him. But if we don't get Mitchell, now what do the Knicks do? In my opinion, I think the main priority is to try to move away from Randall um, as soon as possible, too. I don't want to do the risk of, yeah, his value can get high again by playing really well like he did in 2021. My biggest fear is that, I mean, we saw he didn't want to take that number two position, right? When RJ emerged
Yeah.
um as a as the young star that people saw him as when we drafted him. And he kind of, you know, was hurt that he had to take the back seat and he showed it. Um so I don't want that to happen now that Brunson's here. I think Brunson's going to be that guy for the beginning of the season until RJ. Usually RJ really starts slow in the season and then he kind
Always.
of picks up,
Yeah.
you know.
Always.
Um, so I think Brunson's going to be that guy for the beginning of the season until RJ starts saying, "All right, listen, you had your fun, now it's my turn," you
Mhm.
know. And I think they're going to complement each other really well. So I think that's probably the main step is to move Randall. But the problem with moving Randall is that, okay, I like moving Toppin into that four starting position. Um, Toppin is okay with, sharing the ball, not having to be that main guy, great pick and roll guy. Um, but now you're kind of left empty at that bench position.
Yeah.
So what should we do? And these are
Sorry to cut you off. So you're saying that if they do not get Donovan Mitchell, that Leon Rose will look to move Randall still.
correct.
I'm going to disagree with you. I think you're being a hopeful Knicks fan. Unfortunately, I think it will not. I don't think it will happen. But I'll let you finish. Go ahead.
Well, I would say we move Randall and possibly try to go after someone like Siakam from the Raptors,
Okay.
or you know, this is also a stretch because he's not a proven player like Siakam, but like a PJ Washington. Um, PJ Washington more so because we'll trade Randall to the Hornets and they'll give back PJ Washington in return. But he's still a good outside shooter. Spreads the floor, kind of like a
We'll give us
you know
minutes.
Yeah,
4 or 5. Yeah, I like the trade. There was a rumor going around the Hornets should get Randall because they lost Miles Bridges.
Bridges.
Yes,
Hmm.
much deserved, but that's a whole conversation. But they lost their number two scorer. So you're right. You're right. You're right. So you really do think I'm gonna have to disagree with you. I think Leon Rose is the kind of guy that wants to win every trade. He's a Danny Ainge type. So I don't think there will be a trade out there where Julius Randle, I think he sees Randle's value a lot bigger and more than what he thinks it is. And I
I
don't
mean,
gonna find that value with Randle.
and I agree with him if Randall plays with that 20 as he did in the 2021 season. I mean, that contract is not bad with Randall if he plays at his top performance.
It's
But
not bad
that's
if
a
he plays in the
chance,
middle. To me, if he
right?
plays in the middle, because he didn't have bad numbers. His efficiency went away, which I didn't like at all. That's very, very important. But
It was more his attitude than anything,
That's
you
what
know.
that's what buried him. Yeah, that nobody wants to play with somebody like that.
Exactly.
No fan wants that from their players. Who wants to see someone get discouraged when you win? Like, come on, man. I mean, I'm a manager of one of my uh, dealerships, and if I would see something from that from one of my sales staff, I would go and talk to him. That can't be. And if he keeps doing it, eventually that move has to be made.
Exactly.
Unity is very important. It keeps everybody good. What else?
Listen, I'm not opposed to PJ Washington. I like the guy. Like I said, he can stretch the floor. And
Yeah.
if anybody is willing
Oh,
to
yeah.
take a chance on that trade, it'll be MJ.
Yeah, NJ's
He
crazy.
he
NJ's crazy.
he
NJ's
does
the
stupid
old
moves.
Knicks. NJ's
Yeah,
the old Knicks, man. You see some crazy moves, and I'll take it, man.
he's the
I'll
only
take
guy that'll pay. What's that guy? Cody Zeller, I think it was.
Yeah.
He paid him like 4 years. Like, and
That was the year that people got crazy contracts. Was that the one we gave up Mari, or was it after that one? Might have been
I
after.
don't remember.
I
It,
remember
it's been a while.
Lua Dan got money, Moskov got money, crazy.
Yeah.
It was like this. People were just getting paid. If you put up
No.
2 points, you got money. That's what it was. I want to start with just the team itself, like you said, with Jalen Brunson, Barrett, and internal growth and stuff like that. I think they're good enough to make playing. I think they're not a top 16, but the 7, 8, 19, 9, 10. I think they're good there. And that's good enough. I mean, to make me happy. Again, we said that was one of the cons that Donovan Mitchell. How much does he move the needle? To me, he only moves the needle 5 to 10 wins. 10's a lot, but 5 wins, a lot of assets for 5 wins. And this team is good. It looks, there's something there about this team without Donovan Mitchell right now. It looks like it's compatible. It looks like Brunson's going to be leading this team. He knows how to be a one, a two, knows how to be a three at times. Randall knows how to be a one, a two at times. Barry knows how to be a one, a two. It looks like it's going to gel. You have some defensive players in the lineup with Grimes. Hopefully, I really do think Grimes is going to start. No one can convince me otherwise until I see otherwise. Grimes, Barrett, and Mitchell. Then you have your offense with everybody else but Mitchell Robinson. You know, um, one thing I do want to bring up is if you're not going to get Mitchell, who do you think is available? You said Beal. You mentioned Siakam. You mentioned who else did you mention? Did I lose you, Kenny? Did I lose you, buddy? Talk to me. Ooh, I almost stopped recording.
I
You there?
lost connection.
Yeah. You good?
Hold on. Yeah, let me just put on my backup. Give me a sec. I think I should be good now. Do you
Okay.
hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay.
I'll tell you some names that I wrote down here, besides the ones you mentioned. Okay. Beal, Durant, Kyrie, obviously. I mean, if they're still available, there's still always a chance. I've seen crazy things happen. Shea from OKC. There's a name always being thrown around because they're always looking to rebuild. And I don't know if it exactly fits the timeline because eventually he will be a free agent when these kids grow. And I don't know if it's going to fit the timeline. Lillard, you always another name you always hear.
Pass.
Yeah. We love him, but we're gonna pass on that. Thank
Yeah.
you. I mean, hey, listen, if they're willing to give up Lillard and a couple picks, and we're giving up Randall, we're listening. We're
Yeah,
listening. We're
I'll take
listening.
it.
Yeah, we're listening. Um, D'Angelo Russell, is he a name? We kind of don't need him with Brunson now. Siakam, we'll love to have him. I think there's 0% chance the Raptors trade him unless it's for Durant. He is. I think he made a um all third team once. Just like Randall. You
Yeah, I
know,
believe so.
the 3-and-D player, lockdown three a D, good team player. He's the kind of guy who can be your great second. Another name we've heard right now is Jalen Brown, a guy that we all love. We all love to pair with RJ Barrett. You know, what about Zion? His name is always being thrown around, even though he got that big paycheck. His name is always being thrown around.
Yep. I mean, like we said, anything can happen
Yeah,
tomorrow, right? Any name can just be thrown out there because of the situation. Um, Losing really changes the dynamics of a franchise, right? So like the Pelicans had a great year last year, and if they
bro.
start losing games,
Yeah, they might start shipping people. That's
exactly,
that's another point I wanted to bring up. There's always a team that's supposed to do good and ends up doing bad and ends up blowing it up.
right?
God forbid the Clippers get hurt. Will they blow it up? You mentioned the Pelicans, good one. The Toronto Raptors. You
I
know,
think the Suns are a possibility as well,
possibility
but
to, yeah. I
you
mean,
know they ain't moving Booker. We don't need CP3, and I definitely don't want DeAndre Ayton.
yeah.
He's a solid player, but yeah, there is potential. I mean,
What
the
about
problem is
Philly?
that
There's too much attitudes. Anything can happen. Joel Embiid can
you're
get,
right.
and say, "Hey, I want out of here. Can we ship Mitchell Robinson and 5 picks and get him?" Could happen. Even though I don't really want Joel Embiid.
Me neither. Too injury prone.
Yeah, exactly. Too much. There's a lot of stuff.
But I do like what you said. The minutes is key, right? You don't get Donovan Mitchell. You're able to disperse the minutes that he would take up. I mean, he would play like 35 minutes a game at least. Um, I think probably Fournier is going to start that too.
You think Fournier's
Um,
gonna start it too?
I think he'll start. I think maybe within a month or two in, Grimes will take
Can I
over
ask why? What makes you think he's gonna start? Is it the
just because
money?
of Tibbs. No, because of Tibbs. I think Tibbs is a veteran, loves veterans. Um, so Fournier, he's still a solid player. Um, you know, can help space out the floor. Um, you know, his defense is, I would say, a little bit below average.
Okay.
Um,
Yes, below
but
average.
I think Tibbs will start with Fournier just because of his experience and his veteranship leadership.
I hope you're wrong. I hope
I
you're wrong.
hope so too. I want Grimes. I want
One
Grimes.
thing I did want to bring up is I'm glad you mentioned Grimes, is that if we don't get Mitchell, because we're still on this topic, then we should make a move for a 3-and-D player. We should make a move for 3-and-D player. I do not mind putting Grimes back into the bench and putting Barry at the shooting guard. I don't mind that at all. You
So
know,
what 3 and D player would you go after?
what kind of player or what player do you think is available?
The second question: who do you think is available?
Available. Nothing right now.
Right.
Everybody's going.
Exactly.
I think everybody's going into the team the way they are, and into the season the way the teams are. At the deadline, I think Pelicans have too many forwards with Trey Murphy and Herbert Jones and Brandon Ingram, and Zion's still a forward. He's not a center. So you have 4 tall forwards there. Can we snatch one up? I mean, Trey Murphy and Herbert Jones are 3-and-D players. Herbert Jones, Trey Murphy didn't get any playing time. Can we snatch him up? Where the Spurs going? Is Devin Vassell available? These are players that not too many people, they're not sexy names, but they're names that if you really know basketball, you know them. You let me pick
Correct.
that Jose don't like us. Who the hell is he? No, no, no. Jose, you gotta know about your stuff, man. There's 3-and-D players
Yeah,
you need. There's three a Mikael Bridges type, They don't
exactly.
they're not stars, but they they're
They
necessary.
contribute to the team.
They're
Right.
necessary players in order to win. Jay Crowder types, I mean Jay Crowder's done now, but he might
I get
help.
what you're saying.
I want that kind of play. That's the next move. Also, we don't make a move. We keep that salary. The
I
salary supposedly is going up in 2015.
kind of wish that we went after Royce O'Neal. I like Royce O'Neal.
Would you
Nice
give it up?
solid three. Um, I would have gave them like maybe an OKC first if they would have taken that.
Oh, he's
You know.
secret. But which one?
Yeah.
Which one?
I guess whichever one.
I'm glad you said that because I'm going to share my screen.
You know. I think Royce O'Neal, especially coming
Ah,
off the bench, that would have been a solid
So
pickup.
you see my screen, Kenny?
Yeah.
That is Jonathan Macri. He is a man. I like that he keeps wine when he does his videos. Good for you, my man. Sometimes a beer. But the guy underneath him, that's Jeremy Cohen, I think his name is. He is a genius. Okay.
Yeah, I watched this podcast as well.
Genius, that guy. Okay. Besides that, all right, these are all the picks we have available to offer, right? You can't offer all 23, all Knicks picks. You have to, because the Stippian rule, you offer every other year. You have to have not your pick, you have to have one first round pick every other year. So if we
Right.
create a 23 and a 24, but then we have to keep it 25. I'll explain that, but you're talking about the Wizards Detroit pick or the Bucks pick.
I think it would have to be something that's pretty much guaranteed. So it'll have to be like the Bucks
The Bucks, okay.
or the Mavs pick. Something that that's going to
Like
be a first rounder,
no
right?
matter what. Well, okay. I would if I had to give up one of those two, it would be the Bucks, obviously, because a Mavs
It'd be a
2020.
high first rounder.
I'm not. I don't remember. I don't know if you have the access to look to see what kind of pick they gave up for Royce O'Neal. I didn't look into that because when that trade happened, moments later, Kevin Durant asked to be requested. So I didn't really get to look into that, but I know that they had given up James Harden for Ben Simmons. So was it the Phillies picks they were getting up? They don't have their own picks, Nets. That's why they can't tank. But they gave up what pick? A 23 first round pick. Okay, that's value there. But whose pick? I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I don't know if it's protected or
Oh,
anything.
here it
Oh,
is.
Philadelphia's.
He says the least favorable of the Brooklyn Nets Houston first round pick swap in Philadelphia's first round pick that was previous. Okay, so it's going to be a 2025 around there.
Um,
All right. So most likely will be a Philly pick because Houston's definitely going to keep it's a top five pick. And Brooklyn's, you don't know where they are, but even if they do play, they might not even get along. And Philly looks like they're going to be a top three team, top five team in the East. So they're going to give up the Philly pick. And that's the top end of the first. That's not a bad trade for the Jazz, though. I'll tell you that. And it's not a bad trade for the Nets for what they're looking for, you know?
yeah,
Let me see. Let me go back to my screens. That is exactly, but you're right. That's exactly the kind of player that we need. We're not ready for that kind of trade because if that's if we had Mitchell already, or we're in the fourth, fifth seed. Yes, I would make that move. But right now, it's not a player we need unless you're giving up like 4 second round picks. Second round picks are like hot potatoes. You just throw them around like nothing. I know Jose loves
yeah.
them.
So let me ask you this question before we move to topic three. So if we don't get Donovan Mitchell, what do you think happens with Cam Reddish? Because he could also be a 3-and-D guy. Excuse me.
He has potential.
Excuse me.
He has potential, but honestly, my opinion is I don't think he's gonna make it in the team, man. I don't think he's gonna make it. I don't see minutes for him. I don't think he's Thibodeau's kind of player. I mean, Thibodeau pretty much said that when he didn't play him. I think they will move him eventually. It's sad because we need a player like that. We need a player with that height and that shooting ability, but he doesn't put it together. I think we should
Yeah,
talk about Cam Reddish another time because we could spend another half hour talking about him. And
I agree.
I'm probably gonna have to stop recording and re-record because I don't have the upgraded Zoom. If all your listeners chip in, I will get the upgraded Zoom. Starting with you, Mike, with the big bucks. Anyway, one thing I did want to bring up is not trading Mitchell. You keep these picks, right? Right now we have the best case scenario is four first round picks in the 2023. Best case scenario, most likely we're only gonna have two, right? The Mavs and ours. It's not a bad thing to have two first round picks in 2023 loaded draft.
Yep.
Supposed to be like the LeBron James draft, supposed to be like the draft
The
with
generational draft. Yep.
generation Cade Cunningham.
Yeah,
And
they said like the top 10 is like all gonna be future all-star
right.
players.
I'm really, really liking, and there's a lot of small forwards, Kenny. That's what we can load up. Knicks have to go for small forwards. I like the Thompson brothers, the twins. I
Yeah.
like them a lot. I would like to draft them both if I could.
What's the other guy? I think he's a point guard. I like Nick Smith.
Yeah, there's a top 3 point.
Tall point guard.
What's his name?
I think it's Amon Thompson, isn't it? Isn't he like a point guard shooting guard?
There's somebody there. I'm not sure. I freaking love. Let me see if I can look it up real quick.
Yeah, it's a very loaded draft. I mean, number one is definitely going to be Wembayama.
It's supposed to be
Um,
your Jaden Ivey type kind of style. Man, I can't remember his name. I've been looking up doing some research already because I'm excited about this
oh,
draft.
I'm always reading about the
Yeah,
next draft.
and exciting. If you have two first round picks, it makes you Scoot Henderson.
Who Henderson? That's
Yeah,
right.
strong. 6'2", not crazy height, but and drafting someone like that, God forbid, we're not projected to get him, but we do